Hello, everyone, and welcome to Breakthroughs with Bree. On this podcast, we are discussing all of the topics that help us have breakthroughs on our personal and spiritual development journeys. My name is Bree, otherwise known as Healing with Bree, and I'm a channeler, energy healer, tarot reader, astrologer, and soul alignment coach. My mission in my work and in this podcast is to help teach people how to shift their consciousness, how to heal, and how to release beliefs and patterns and fears of their ego mind so that they can step into alignment with their soul to live lives of abundance, purpose, and bliss. In these episodes, I will be sharing either through my own lens and my own channel or through the experiences of my guest, wisdom and expertise about healing, spirituality, psychology, personal growth, holistic wellness, mysticism, consciousness, and so much more. My hope is that these conversations help you feel seen and provide support and inspiration for you with your own personal breakthroughs. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a very special episode of Breakthroughs with Bree. Today, on April 22nd, is the 2-year anniversary of Healing with Bree. I opened Healing with Bree on 4/22/22, so 2 years ago. So today, this podcast episode is coming out on the anniversary of this business, and it feels like a really special time. So I'm feeling called to share a little bit of what these last 2 years have been like. If you've ever been curious about what my story is coming into this kind of work or coming into my intuitive gifts, I did do an episode that was dedicated to just that, which is episode 10, if you're interested in going back and hearing a little bit about that. I find a lot of people really relate to the parts of my story and how it all came together, and that it's very affirming for people. So if you feel drawn to that, go back and listen to episode 10. But basically the story kind of stops when I decided to start the business, because there was so much more of a story since then. I might do another episode that's dedicated to what the evolutions of me and of my business have been since I started, because there's a lot of really crazy experiences and juicy nuggets and all of that. But I'm just feeling called to share today that I did not have the clear cut final version of what Healing with Bree would be when I started Healing with Bree. That feels really important to share today. I find with a lot of clients and people that I talk to that we have this preference for wanting to have an idea or a picture of what that exact final result will be of something before we really let ourselves get started. And I just don't find that it actually works like that most of the time. I do think that you can get clarity on what your next step should be. And I do think that you can get clear on what your overall vision is. And that's a little bit about what this episode's going to be about today, is getting clear on what it is you really want. But what I've learned is the part of us that wants to know exactly how it's going to turn out is not really the soul part of us. That's our ego mind, who feels a little bit safer if we know exactly what we're managing to or exactly what the result will be. And I was working with one of my one-on-one clients, and she beautifully articulated that at the start of the program, she did the Soul Path program with me for 6 months. And at the start of it, one of her goals was about opening and shifting to a soul aligned business, sort of like a spiritual business where, she's using her spiritual gifts to be of service to the world in some way. And she started the program like really wanting by the end of it to know exactly what that was going to look like and, have all of that or whatever. And that was her intention, which was great. And by the end of it, she did have a lot of clarity and had a lot of things shift that revealed to her more about what she wanted to do. But it wasn't by the end of the program that she had exactly that. She didn't have the full, like, this is the business plan, this is what I'll be doing. But what she said was that she valued what she did have by the end of it even more. And what that was a realization that you can't really know what the end result's going to be because you haven't learned everything you need to learn between point A and point B. And that everything that she knows right now is more than enough of what she needs to take the next step. And that she's seeing and really feeling trust and belief that before she needs to take the next step, she's going to know and have and see and understand all the things she needs to take the next step. Right. And that really her wanting to know the full path and the full plan was, again, just her ego mind, her fear self, really wanting to manage to everything, but that she feels really content with being able to trust her intuition, trust her guides in the universe to support her, and to be able to just do one step at a time. And she knows that it's going to end up with the same result, if not a better results, because if she tried to plan with the information she had now, she wouldn't be able to build as magnificent of a plan and outcome as if she just let herself do one step at a time. Because again, she's going to learn more things. She herself is going to shift between point A and point B. So why would she limit her plan for the future by trying to have it all figured out now with the level of information that she has now, when she could just let it be one at a time, and again let the plan kind of like exponentially get better with every version of herself that she gets to come into between now and then. And I thought that that was a really beautiful thing that she articulated. So I relate to that a lot with my own path and my own experience. And if you've heard some of my episodes where I talk a little bit about myself, I'm a purple aura and indigo. I'm a numerology number 5. I'm a manifesting generator, and all of these things have a core theme, a commonality. Like almost all of my chart is mutable signs and astrology. All of these have a theme of change and evolution. All of them have a theme of not staying static, but constantly evolving and growing and changing, and that just being how it goes. And so it feels very fitting that that's how my business has been. If you're a little bit newer here, or just maybe didn't know, I started Healing with Bree doing natal chart readings, astrology readings. That was how I was able to sort of like build the confidence and finally put a service offering out there and start my LLC and all that kind of stuff. And then I added energy healing to the mix. I got Reiki certified. And then I was able to do what I had been excited and eyeing since the start of all of it, even before I started my business. And that was the Akashic Records channeling, learning how to channel the Akashic Records with Anne Marie Pizarro, who I've had on multiple episodes. And she does a program which she teaches people how to channel, and then also how to channel the Akashic Records and how to be a guide for other people connecting with their Akashic Records, which is one of the sessions that I do now. And that program is called Become an Akashic Records Guide. She does about twice a year. Usually I post about when it's happening, so you can always keep an eye out for there in case that's something you're interested in. But I learned how to do Akashic channeling, and I offered that service. And after I offered that, that's when things like really started to change and blow up. And then from that point, I felt guided to start doing the coaching work, the soul alignment coaching, the trigger alchemy and soul alignment coaching that I've been doing. And I feel like in the next year, there's going to be a really big focus on the coaching for many different reasons that I do feel called to share here today. But I explain all of that to illustrate that there's just been so many iterations of what I feel called to do. There's been a lot of evolution of my own gifts and things that I'm offering. I felt a lot of change and shifting, and even what feels like people really need support in. And I've been able to just adapt along the way. And I've had exactly what I needed at the time I needed it. And then when things were ready to change, I had everything I needed to change it then. So if that's something that gives you a little bit of hope, if maybe you're thinking about, starting a soul aligned or spiritual business of some sort, or maybe it's just a business in general that's not spiritual, or maybe there's some other part of your life where you know that there's a big vision, like long-term vision that you want to work towards, and you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed about how to start, or even how to like really articulate what it is you want and how you can start to get there. And it helps make you feel a little bit less overwhelmed to hear that somebody who's done it and is now doing it full time and is doing it really successfully has just let it be one step at a time and let it change when it needed to change. If that gives you peace, then I'm here to tell you that that's exactly how it's been for me. And that's how it's been for many, 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 many other entrepreneurs, and people that I really deeply respect. It's been the same for them. With all that, I'm really excited to tell you a little bit about what's coming up with Healing with Bree, hitting this big milestone of 2 years and reflecting back and seeing on all of the things that has happened and that I've learned and that I've accomplished and that I failed at, and all of the things in the last 2 years, and everything that those experiences given me and teed me up perfectly for what feels like is going to be a really, really big like up level in what I'm doing, and the impact that Healing with Bree is going to have moving forward. So here's the gist. I am feeling a really big pull to focus on the coaching work, on the trigger alchemy, soul alignment, healing coaching work that I'm doing with people. This is both the one-on-one work as well as the group work. What's been really, really cool is that it feels like I'm almost getting a snapshot of the collective's like stages of awakening and stages of healing through some of the channeling work that I've done. And even when I get connected to bring through, what's going to be of greatest service to people, um, get to sense a lot of what's going on. And I feel like a lot of people are aware, awakened to the fact that things can be better than what we've always thought was normal. I feel like the first wave of this was maybe even like 10 years ago or, 15 years ago or so, when there was a collective awakening to the fact that we didn't have to do things the way that we always had. And we didn't have to be quite so miserable while doing it. I think a lot of, this talk about mental health and, a lot of the social justice work and even some of the ways that holistic health and healing has become a lot more mainstream. I think all of that is a direct relation to the collective starting to realize that we don't have to keep moving through the world like robots. Like we don't have to just get the job, pay the bills, find the relationship, take care of the kids. Oh, and then we retire. And by that time, we're sick and we're poor and we're miserable, right? Like we just don't, like, we don't have to subscribe to that, Not to say everybody's experience was like that, but we just don't have to be quite in that mundane and sort of miserable and really scarcity based existence. That it doesn't have to be like that. And when we have that realization, what that opens up is a whole other possibility of like, what could it be like and how do I get there? Right. And then I feel like most recently, there's a really big push for the people that were planted on the earth, the souls that made contracts to come down and to be intuitives and sensitives and healers and light workers and et cetera, et cetera. I feel like there's a big push for them to understand the purpose and the function of their own sensitivity and how to become really empowered in their sensitivities and how to release a lot of that scarcity paradigm so that they can actually find deep bliss and purpose and joy. Even with things like, struggling with depression or anxiety or, struggles with relationships or struggles with disease and health and body image issues and all of these things that, again, on some level, we've been taught to think are just normal. Like everybody struggles with that. Oh, well, right. I feel like in particular, the intuitives and the sensitives are being pushed to a point of that feeling really uncomfortable and really frustrating so that they can realize that they are not meant to live like that. Like they're not meant to live in these really fear-based places where they're feeling constant anxiety and even the people pleasing thing. Like I feel like there's a big wave of like the guides pushing people to realize like you are so much more than this and it's really important that you learn how to shift out of that. So all of that to say, I am really feeling a push towards doing coaching programs with people that are teaching them not only what these triggers and old conditioning and beliefs are and why they are the way that they are so that we can deconstruct them a little bit, but how to shift them and move forward, how to come into deeper soul alignment and what it actually looks like when we are in bliss, when we are in joy, when we're living in lives of purpose and fulfillment on a soul level without sacrificing the stability and the security of our human life, right? Like, how can we know how to do things that we've never been taught or shown? The answer is we can't. And so I'm feeling like both with the podcast and with the coaching, the guides really, really want me to start like really showing and teaching and coaching people what it looks like to go from the place of, okay, I know that I'm intuitive and I'm sensitive. I can feel this pull to do something that feels like deeply important to me and deeply fulfilling to me on a soul level. And I want to follow that. And then I'm also feeling, sort of like the triggers and the discomfort and the pain and the struggle of this human life. But I'm aware of the fact that I really do think it could be different. But like, I don't even know where to start about how to start putting some of those things down and shifting out of those. Like for the people that are in that place and who are brave enough to take their healing into their own hands, who are brave enough to take responsibility for their own experience in the world and their own healing and their own feelings. Like those are the people I'm laser focused on for these coming seasons. Because let me tell you what, when those people, when the intuitives and sensitives who are ready to take responsibility for their own healing and their own experience, when they find bliss, when they find purpose, when they find healing, they heal the whole rest of the world. It's such a huge ripple effect from the healers that don't even know that they're healers, just might call themselves again, maybe empaths or light workers or whatever. Like when you guys really take it into your own hands and when you are just given the information, when you're given the tools, when you're given the support, when you're given the examples of what it can look like to really transmute again some of these pains and traumas and struggles and old paradigms into your purpose. When you learn how to give yourself the bliss and the safety and the purpose and the joy that you know that you want, you are literally going to change the world. So I'm really excited about all of the ways that that's going to materialize and look like for me to help support those people on finding just that. It's been really fun to do this podcast season where we have so many stellar guests. And I do have a list of like dream guests to come on and people that I really feel like are going to come on episodes soon and make a really big impact. And that's still going to be a part of the show, but I'm really feeling my guides push me to be like, no, like you need to like step into your own authority, into your own power, and really start bringing through these messages and these how to's specific to your soul contract group of people because they really need this information from you. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. So that's going to be something that is a little different in the podcast, specifically with my trigger alchemy work. So, how to alchemize, which is to take something that appears to be worthless and turn it into gold, how to take our triggers and turn them into gold. What I really love helping people do, and has been so fun to get feedback from my coaching clients that this is exactly what they're experiencing when they're working with me, is how they can receive their triggers, how they can find the nuggets of wisdom that their triggers are really trying to offer them, the why behind what's happening, like the root of the trigger, and then learning how they can actually use that information and shift it into greater compassion, shift it into greater authenticity, shift it into a sense of freedom because they went straight to whatever this trigger is. They debunked it, they deconstructed it, they saw what was really there, and they let their soul intuition guide them forward and transmuting it, which is really alchemizing it, right? I love teaching people that. I love showing people that. To me, I really feel like triggers are our intuition and our spirit guides, our soul teams, showing us where we are not in alignment currently with our ultimate truth, love, and joy. If we want to live our dream lives, if we want to live these lives of bliss and purpose and all that kind of stuff we were talking about, that does require that soul level alignment. Right. And not in like a perfect kind of way, because perfect isn't a thing, but in finding the deepest level of alignment that we can at any given moment. And I really believe that triggers are the signposts that show us how to get there. I really believe that they're the signals from, again, our own intuition, our own guides about where we are not in alignment, but we've just not been taught to see them that way. And we've not been taught how to relate to them, to find and identify where we're out of alignment and how to process them in such a way to where we come out on the other end in deeper alignment with a greater feeling of love, with a greater feeling of peace and freedom, all that stuff. So that is one really big element of how I'm working with people in coaching and the one-on-one coaching. I've had a lot of feedback from clients that what they get on the other side of it is feeling like they had years of therapy just in the 6 months that we work together, because we go deep and we really move the energy. We find the somatic and emotional healing, and we find the clarity of mind and of belief to move forward in a way that feels like it's aligned. It's moving towards the things that you want. So that is in the one-on-one program. The group programs feel like they're going to be a little bit more thematic, like they're going to have their own theme or topic. And it definitely feels like the guides are going to let me know what they want me to do group programs on. So if for some reason you're not able to work with me one-on-one, if that's not something that is a possibility for you right now, that next way you can work with me is looking out for those group programs. And then of course, I will still have some single sessions available. By far the most common is the Akashic Records sessions. And what's so interesting about those is that the way that I see them is that they are an opportunity for your spirit teams and your guides and your higher self to give you messages that really change things for you. You getting access to like your soul contracts and your soul level truth via accessing the Akashic Records is something that's profoundly healing and profoundly awakening. Right. So I feel like a lot of people get that initial message, the perspective shift, maybe the validation or the affirmation or something like that, that opens up their awareness to think about things differently or to know something more deeply than they knew it before. And then, of course, all of the energy shifts that happen as they're hearing that information. It can be cleansing, it can be activations of things, right? And it's such a powerful session. But my guides really clearly showed me that yes, it's great to get the ball rolling or to spark the match, but what people really need is support and to be taught how to take that initial awakening and enact that in their lives, to start embodying it, how to apply their own intuitive guidance to their own healing so that they can find their power. They can find and really utilize the gifts that they have so they can make the impact that they want, so they can find more joy, like all these kinds of things. It's great to like, again, get the awareness and the perspective shift to go, wow, I see what could be different and I see what's true and what's not true. But then how do I take that and like make that into something that's like a part of my real life or changes things? Can be really confusing because again, we haven't been taught how to do that, right? So the coaching is like a really one-on-one intensive way to do that, and the podcast is going to be an extension of that. So really, what that sort of structure of how you can get supported by me and my work looks like is the one-on-one coaching, then the group programs, then the single sessions when they're available, where there will be limited availability on those per month. I'm thinking maybe 2 or 3 sessions a month is where it's feeling like is going to be the best place for that to live. And then if for some reason working with me in any of those capacities just isn't something that's available to you, then you have the podcast. You have this, where I love to bring you information that is free for you from a monetary perspective, not necessarily from a time perspective, so that you can still find healing. You can still really help yourself to that place of soul alignment, back to that place of truth and of love and of finding your bliss and your purpose. So that's a little bit about what's to come. I'm really, really excited about it. Again, like when you intuitives and sensitives, when you take responsibility for your own healing and for creating your own sense of bliss and purpose, you literally change the world. You change the world. Like you don't even know how powerful you are and how important it is that you do this kind of work. And I literally can't even think of anything to me personally that feels as important and as meaningful as helping you to do that, truly. It's like my greatest pleasure and my greatest joy. So I'm really grateful you're here. I'm grateful for your support in these last 2 years of healing with Bree and you being with me through all the evolutions and everything. And I just want to take a minute to say that. I hope you feel my love. I hope you do. I'm like beaming it out to all of you. I'm going to take a quick break and then we're going to come back and chat just a little bit before we end today about finding what you really want. What is it you really want? And the importance of determining that and finding a little bit of clarity on that as you move forward into the rest of this year. All right, we're back. Here's one of the things that I hear most often from people is either one, you're in the camp of, I don't know what I want, get really nervous, a little overwhelmed at the thought of like identifying what is it that I want most, or you are sure, you are so certain that what you want is some sort of external thing. I want a 6-figure job. I want the house. I want the relationship. I want, XYZ, whatever the external thing is. I hear this kind of stuff so often. And I myself have also been in both camps. And my guides have shown me a lot about what that's really about, why we tend to come to that place, and how that has it backwards. And that's not actually going to get you to the place where you have your dream life or you have the things that you desire. And I want to tell you a little bit more about this. Okay, let's start with camp one, with those of you who might say that you don't know what you want or you struggle identifying what you want. Usually I find there's even two different versions of this. Is one, there's the person that literally can't come up with anything. It's like blank. And then there's the other people who have ideas, but then get really nervous or overwhelmed and like jump back and forth between ideas or repress their ideas or like push them away, like, oh, no, that can't be it. I don't know about that. Right. One of the things that I do when I'm working, coaching, healing with people is we get to the root of where this is really coming from. Right. And I really recommend to people to personify triggers or parts of themselves that they're trying to meet. So if we personify this part of yourself that is not sure what you want, if you invite that version to come sit across from you, it's probably a younger child self most of the time, these things are. You invite them to come sit across from you. One of the things you could ask them is like, how are you feeling? right now. And sometimes they might say, I don't feel anything if you're really, really in that first sort of category I described, if it's totally blank. Or you might get an answer of like, I feel nervous or scared, right? The natural next question is like, what are you scared of? Like, what is it that you're afraid of here? Right. And this answer is probably going to apply to both. In most cases, there's a fear about what happens when you claim the things that you desire, and you can 100% track this back to whatever your experiences were in early childhood. Some people might identify that they're trying to avoid a feeling of disappointment because disappointment is a feeling that they just don't know how to tolerate and process in their body. Some people might have had experiences where their desires triggered their caregiver, made them upset in some way. So they really internalize that having desires is wrong in some way. Or the guides are showing me too that there might be some of you who like tried to follow your desire in some way and it led you to a situation that felt unsafe, or maybe where something traumatic happened. And so the way that you interpreted that situation was, my desires lead to me getting hurt or like are not safe to follow, which doesn't feel like that's the actual truth of the story, but is understandable that you might have come to that conclusion in that moment. It's really important to understand what you're really working with if you want to be able to create any change or movement in it, right? If what you do is you stay on the surface with, I just don't know what I want, that's not really going to get you anywhere. It's going to be like you're hitting up against a wall. You're just going to continue to activate the underlying fears by just staying on that level. If it's like the outer layer of an onion, right? So we go in a little bit deeper. And again, this is the thing that I'm really coaching with people how to do, is how to find the roots of these things, right? And usually it's tied to some sort of fear. And a lot of what we just talked about in this case is like the fear of what happens when you claim or you announce or you state or you let yourself really connect with what you want. Once you have that, you have a lot of really juicy stuff to work with. For that first group of people who are really in that spot, it is important for you to identify sort of like the origin story of where that came from, what that story looks like for you, what those formative experiences were that led to you essentially sort of like turning off or turning down the volume of the part of yourself that wants things and knows what you want pretty clearly. And it's creating safety around desires. It's creating safety around what it is that you want, right? And that is going to be unique to whatever your particular story was around that. But that is the energy that you're working with. And the goal of that would be to really sort of turn up the volume on what it is that I want. And I just have to recommend a few things on this because, again, I really like teaching you the how that looks in real life. That looks like you acknowledging the really small things that you want at first. If you want a different pillow when you're sitting on the couch, if you want water in a different glass, if you want a little bit more salt on your meal, if you want a different song playing on the radio, if you want that picture frame hung in a different place, like all of these seemingly really silly things, or maybe you just want to wear a different outfit. There's one that's like easiest in a function, but there's a part of you that just kind of wants to like wear something a little fun or whatever. Like it's so important for you, for the little signals that you're getting about what you want, for you to fully receive them and to act on them, because that's going to widen the channel that you receive your desires for, and you're going to start getting more and more and more. And if you're doing so while, really focusing on calming your body, maybe doing nervous system regulation and creating a sense of safety around your desires really intentionally, then you're sort of like widening your window of tolerance to be able to actually connect with and let your desires move through you little by little, right? So that would be where I want to start. Start connecting with all the little things that you want. It is so important that you turn back on the want, the need, the desire channel within yourself. It's so important that the volume of that gets louder, and I'm going to explain why and the next part of this. But that is a little bit about what's really going on, why it's going on, and how you might start to move towards coming back into a little bit more balance or even authenticity as it relates to that. Okay, so let's just say that that first group of people has turned back on their desires. They're starting to get clear images of the things that they do really want, even if they still feel like a little bit of fear about claiming the fact that they have these big dreams or whatever, but like, you know what you want. Or we're talking about now the people who have known what they want and they're having a hard time maybe setting goals or really manifesting and materializing these things. And they find themselves saying that what they want is like an external thing. Again, the house, the job, the money, the relationship, etc. Here is my philosophy of when you get a vision for something that you'd really desire. Okay. What you really want is not the external thing, but desiring the external thing, having the vision, the dream for it is a really important step that helps initiate and again inspire you going down the path that is actually going to get you what you want. And if you're following your like authentic, heart-centered joy and desire, that's leading you down the path of your greatest fulfillment, your greatest soul alignment, etc. Let me say that again in a slightly different way. What you really want and need is not actually the external thing, but you getting this dream or this desire for the external thing is almost like the trigger. It almost like materializes the path that you're meant to walk on that's actually going to give you what you want and is going to be like the carrot at the end of the stick that helps you move towards the thing that you most deeply desire. If you're like, Bree, this is so confusing. I get it. Let me break this down a little bit. For example, one of the things that I dreamed of for a long time was having some sort of healing practice, which is what I'm doing now. What I felt like I really wanted was just to be in this job, to have my own business, to like provide for my own life, have the flexibility and the freedom and the autonomy that a business offered me, and to be doing some sort of like soul aligned work. And like that was the thing that I really wanted. Okay. So I worked towards that. I dreamed about that, all that kind of stuff. Here is what I've learned. What I really wanted was I wanted freedom. I wanted peace. I wanted a sense of sort of like power and influence over my own life and circumstances. I wanted a sense of fulfillment. I wanted a sense of creativity. I wanted to be able to have space and freedom to follow my intuition about where I should be directing my energy. I wanted safety. I wanted to be able to devote more time to my health and to my home and to other parts of my life that didn't have to do with work. That is what I really wanted. And what I just described were feelings, were like internal emotional states of being. Okay. Those states of being were what I really wanted, that I've learned. Okay. That's what I was really going for. That's what my heart and soul needed. That's what I was yearning. That's what I was craving, right? I did not have the tools to identify that that's really what I wanted. Not at the time that all of this happened, right? So, in the meantime, my higher self and the universe in its infinite wisdom drops in this little image, this little vision of me being my own little business owner, entrepreneur, spiritual business, right? So it gives me this vision, and I work well on my way towards doing this, right? And along the way of me, step at a time to go open this business, I learn the things that I need to learn, and circumstances are created. I create the circumstances to where I start to access more of these states of being, and I start to access more of these feelings. And then I start to feel like everything, the tension starts to like relax and go out. Now, here's the other interesting thing is that when I started the business, that itch of desire didn't even really go away. I still felt a little bit like restless, I guess you could say, or maybe unsatisfied is something you could say. There was a part of me that felt satisfied, but not like the whole part. I still felt the like, go, go, go. I got to do more. I got to do more. I got to do more. And then I left my corporate job last year, did my business full time, and I was still sort of experiencing that, like, why doesn't it feel good enough yet kind of feeling, right? And that's when I felt this very big download or awareness shift or like whatever you want to call it, that what I was really wanting was not some sort of external metric or situation. It was the state of being that that vision represented. And once I was able to clearly see that that's what I really wanted, I was able to focus on creating that state of being for myself. Now, does me owning my own business and having the freedom and autonomy that that has for my schedule make it easier for me to create peace and groundedness and have a sense of freedom and feel a sense? Of course it does. Of course it does. Right? which is again why I feel like we're inspired to move towards our overall vision for things. But that was not ultimately what I wanted, because if I had got the business and I did not feel any of those emotional feelings, those state of beings while being in the business, while running my own business, I wouldn't have run this business very long. That would not have been something that I stayed in very long, because again, it wasn't really about the external thing. It was about what I wanted to feel, that vision, that dream invoked in me, right? So what I want to offer you guys today as you're, moving forward in your own dreams for your life is that our desires are really important, and they're giving us clues about what we need and what we want. They're giving us clues. They're inspiration points. They very well might be the things that you actually manifest and that actually happen for you. Because I also believe that us getting dreams about these manifestations are because there are realities in all of these timelines and dimensions where we already have it. It already exists, right? But what's most important about these visions and desires that we have for ourselves is what they give us clues about that we're not feeling as much of that we want to feel. Things, for example, money, like if we want more money, usually we want to feel a greater sense of personal power to influence our own environment. And we want to feel more safety and security, especially as it relates to our core needs, physiological needs getting met, right? If we're really craving things that have to do with relationships, we really want connection. We really want acceptance. We really want to feel love. We really want to feel like we belong. We want to feel like we are valuable. We want to feel like we're even attractive, right? We want to feel the pleasure of actually being able to connect with another person, I say in quotes, right? Like those are the feelings that we're actually craving, not necessarily the relationship. Because again, if you asked yourself, if I had the relationship and didn't feel any of those things, would I still really want to be in that relationship? Answer would probably be no, right? If we're really envisioning material things specifically, like again, maybe it's a car or it's a house or it's some other thing, I would ask yourself, how does having that make me feel? Or how does that improve how I feel? Does it make me feel like I have a greater sense of status, which is maybe around being respected or valued in some way, or people thinking you're capable? Is it about, having a place that feels safe and stable in the sense of a home? Or maybe it's feeling like you have the support or the capacity to like grow a family or something. Like it's just important to ask yourself, when you imagine having that, how does that make you feel differently than you feel now? And that's what you really want, is the feeling, right? So I want to offer you guys this wisdom, this thing that's a major game changer when manifesting and when in getting clear on what you want. Because when you understand that what you want is an emotional feeling, is a state of being, you have the keys to the castle. You can then learn, how do I start to feel this way right now? Because here's the kicker, is that we create our external world based on our internal state of being. We create our external circumstances based on our internal circumstances and not the other way around. A lot of us have been taught and think that it's the external thing that finally lets us feel the internal thing, and that could not be farther than the truth. Even if you were handed $1 million tomorrow, if you've not learned how to master your anxiety and how to feel peace in your body, you will continue to find things to be anxious about. The money is not going to make the anxiety go away. It's not. If you don't know how to connect with your own self, how to value your own self, how to accept all parts of yourself and make it feel belonged and celebrated, you are going to continue to find patterns in relationships that feel unfulfilling on some level, because it's not the relationship that's giving you that. Relationships can be a great teacher for how you can start to do that for yourself, but it's not giving it to you. It's just teaching you how you can give it to you. And you don't ever really feel it until you give it to you. Okay. So I'm going to say this again. It is our internal world that is generating our external circumstances. If you want to learn more about like quantum physics and like how this is all really a hologram, like it literally proves that. Physics is proving that our internal state of being and expectations about the world is blah, 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 is what is generating our external circumstances. So when we think about creating your dream life or manifesting or whatever it is that you want to call it, you have to get clear on what it is you actually want, because what you want is actually something you can generate for yourself. You can generate a feeling of being more connected to and being more loved and appreciated. You can generate feelings of stability and safety and security and deep peace. You can generate feelings of abundance and wealth and joy and bliss within yourself. All of those things are a part of your natural being, being source and having all of the things available to you, right? But you just haven't learned how to actually connect to that state, how to maintain that state of being so that you can really soak it in and start to meet that need that's showing itself to you through the dreams and the inspirations and the desires that you're having, right? And the beautiful, magical thing about it is that when you are really in that state of being, your external world starts to reflect that state of being right back to you and making it easier for you to be in that state of being. So, for example, when you really expand the amount of time that you're spending in a deep state of peace and trust, circumstances that reflect peacefulness and trust materialize. When you start to really be in the state of being that is wealth and abundance and stability and safety, the world around you will manifest those circumstances. And one of those that is really reflected by those states is money and opportunities to make money and all of that kind of stuff, right? When you really intentionally spend time in the state of being of health and balance, strength, whatever the state of being is, your body will start to manifest that as a reflection of your own state of being, right? So, again, the biggest thing I would just want all of us to take away from this as we're deciding what it is we really want is one, the importance of connecting with your desires. Your desires are so sacred. They are leading you towards the path of having your dream life. Always, always, always. It's your intuition. Your higher self speaks to you through your desires and your joy. Get connected to them. Once you get connected to them, learn how to interpret them, learn how to, I guess you could say, analyze them, learn how to understand them for what they are: inspiration, vision, right? They're things that help like point you in the right direction, but then understand that what it is that you really want is the feeling that they're inspiring you to feel. And then start to learn, because just learn, that's all it is. You have the capacity to feel it and be it. You just got to learn how. Then learn how you can start to embody that feeling, that state of being. There's probably going to be some healing work, maybe some, shadow work, some trigger work, whatever, to start embodying that feeling. Then you're going to feel so satisfied by having that feeling. It's not even going to matter if the external things materialize, but of course they're going to materialize anyway because they're a reflection of your state of being. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you guys today on this anniversary of one of my dreams coming true and what I learned about that and how it taught me what I really wanted and kind of what it was that wasn't really what I wanted, but was almost like a nice bonus, right? What I really wanted again, state of peace, a state of freedom, state of fulfillment, you know, and I have that in spades in my life. It's so abundant in my life. And honestly, how that materialized could have happened in a lot of ways that was not this business. And that would have been okay because what I really, really wanted was as long as I felt fulfilled and connected and like I was of service and that I had freedom and peace, like that was what was most important to me. Once I had that, it would have been okay if things would have been different. The fact that it turned out kind of similarly to what I had a vision for is miraculous and so cool. But again, the part that deeply satisfied me was getting and giving myself what I really wanted, which was the feeling. So if you have any other questions on that, send me a DM. Let me know. This is definitely what I'm working with one-on-one clients about. So if you are one of these intuitives or sensitives that is brave enough to take responsibility for your own healing and your own experience, and you want to learn how to alchemize your triggers and learn how to embody this kind of like soul level alignment in your desires, I highly recommend you checking out healingwithbrie.net, where all of the information about what I'm offering and how you can work with me is there. But otherwise, I hope that this podcast was deeply supportive, deeply helpful to you. And I will see you next Monday for more breakthroughs. Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening to this episode and for tuning in to Breakthroughs with Brie. Please share your favorite episodes with your friends and loved ones, and please like, subscribe, and rate the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to it, as it helps me continue to create these episodes to help support your breakthroughs. I would love to stay connected with you, so please follow me on social media at Healing with Brie. Please check out my website at healingwithbrie.net, which will always have the most up-to-date information about the services that I'm currently offering. And please consider using the link in the show descriptions to subscribe to my email list so you can be the first to hear about any offerings and get all of the free resources that I offer, as well as get my weekly channeled messages. My deepest love and gratitude to you, and I can't wait to have more breakthroughs with you next week.